Hello, this is Astrologer-Coach Sonja Francis, and today we're going to be talking about the upcoming new moon in 0 degrees of Sagittarius, which will be exact on November 22nd at 7:32 a.m. East Coast time in the US, which is also New York time, or for 4:32 a.m. West Coast time in the US, which is also LA time. Now, the new moon is always a time where we plant new seeds for the coming lunar cycle. And so it's a very introverted time. It's a time where we go within to look for these answers, to look for what it is that we need to be doing for these next 28 days. And so it's not a time where we want to take action yet. We really want to just go within and look for what it is that we're planting, the seeds that we're planting, the intentions, right? So it's a time for setting intentions, and I will be talking about the best time to set those intentions, the most potent time to set those intentions at the end of this video. But first, we're going to talk about the Sagittarian energy and see what that's all about. Now, Sagittarius is all about, it's asking us to go beyond what we already know. It's asking us to widen our horizons, to really look at our belief systems and look at our beliefs and see how can we go beyond our conditioning, our filters that we have in place, and how can we kind of look for a larger truth or look for different perspectives in life and see how can we see things in different ways. Now, this is a great time, of course, to explore anything or begin any new projects that are connected to traveling, because when we travel and we go to places we've never been before, we experience life in a very different way, when we see things in a very different light and we understand life in a very different way. It's also a great time to do projects, even if we don't travel and stay at home, where we're exploring new territories in some way. And also the ability to see the bigger picture is part of that as well. So if we do something where we have the ability to kind of step back and zoom out a little bit. So one of the questions you can ask yourself with this new moon is, what might I see if I zoomed out a little bit and if I took a wider view in life or about a certain situation even, right? If we just kind of went like this a little bit and saw more of the peripheral vision rather than just the straight ahead where we're always looking, right? Now, in order for us to do things differently and have different results, of course, we first have to see things differently, right? And so it really depends on, where we stand, how we see something, and also the filters that we have in place, right? Because there are filters from our conditioning, from our upbringing, from society, the kind of society that we grew up in, our religious beliefs or any other belief systems that we grew up with. Our cultural background, right? All of those things are filters that are in place through which we see reality, right? And so in order for us to be able to expand and explore beyond these filters, we have to kind of like step back and zoom out and maybe stand in a different way so that we can see things differently and have a different perspective. So by taking kind of like a 90-degree turn, we don't just get a different perspective, but we're also exploring different avenues, and this may lead to different outcomes in our lives, because if we're always just going in one direction, we're always going to end up at a particular place. But if we're moving in a different direction, all of a sudden we may end up somewhere else, different outcomes, right? So this is an important part of this new moon, also because the new moon is squaring Neptune in Pisces. And so this is really encouraging us to also take a different turn as far as our mind is connected to our heart. And it encourages us to really grow and stretch ourselves around how we connect to our intuition, our imagination, how we connect to compassion and creativity, the things that really kind of move through us on an energetic level, and how we can create things from that energetic flow in life, right? So this is really what we're trying to explore as well with this new moon in particular. We're really looking at this Neptune in Pisces, and we're being asked to have faith and being asked to take a look at how everything is kind of like interconnected on an energetic level, and how we're receiving this infinite support on a daily basis from the universe if we're open and if we're able to align ourselves with this energy that's all around us, right? And so this is something that maybe our mind doesn't always understand, but our heart certainly knows that this is true, because on an intuitive level, we know that to be true. It's just that our mind sometimes gets in the way, because our mind wants to, connect to certain conditioning and belief structures that we have in place. And if that's not in alignment with that, then it's kind of, the mind will toss it out and go like, that's not true, right? So seeing through that illusion, of separation, that we're separate from the universe, or that we're separate from energy all around us, that is really the greatest shift that really needs to take place with this new moon cycle. We really need to allow ourselves to see, how are we connected, and how can we see that there is no separation. And so one of those things too with this particular aspect is to believe in divine timing, right? To know that there are no mistakes in the universe, that everything occurs and happens exactly at the right time, exactly when it needs to happen, when the energy alignment is right and perfect. And that's when things can take place. And our mind sometimes gets impatient and wants things to happen quicker and wants to move forward faster. Sagittarius is a very fast-moving energy. Pisces is a very slow-moving energy. So that means that we may need to make adjustments, and we may need to kind of stretch ourselves a little bit when it comes to these two particular energies right now, this month, right? Now, Neptune, which is has just gone direct. It just changed directions after 5 months of being retrograde. So we're really ready to move forward on anything that has required for us to have faith or trust our intuition. So think back to early June when Neptune started to go retrograde, and think back to that time. What was in your face at that time around faith and trust and intuitiveness? Like, what needed your faith? What needed your trust in a higher place, or just within yourself, within trusting your own intuition? What needed that? What was in your face at that time? And what have you discovered these past 5 months when Neptune was retrograde? How have you been able to connect to that on an internal level? Because now is the time to really move forward with that and really implement that in your life, having that faith and trust, just living that, in your day-to-day life. Now, the other planet that's going, changing directions right now as well is Chiron, the wounded healer, and that will happen a day after the new moon. And this is a very important, potent energy, because it's stopping at the time of the new moon, basically. So the energy is very strong of this Chiron energy. And this is asking us to take a closer look at any old wounds or traumas that are showing up right now. Because whenever the energy is very strong, what can happen is that we get triggered into certain things that have been painful or problematic for us in the past, growing up as children or even as babies. And something gets triggered in us that reminds us of that pain or of that situation. And we may have a very strong response to something. And when we have very strong responses, emotional responses to something that happens, we want to pay attention to that, because that's really a place where we can tap into healing, our old wounds and traumas. So pay attention to when you're having an extreme response or a very heightened response, and check to see, where did this, or is there something in my past, in my childhood, or when I was very little, where this may have originated, or is there something that this reminds me of? Does this remind me of an interaction, a relationship from the past? Does this remind me of a feeling or a painful experience that I've had in the past? And then just bring a lot of compassion and understanding towards that past experience, and also towards the past because when you had this experience in the past, you were most likely a child, or you were either a very, very young child or a young adult, or somebody who was still developing and still trying to understand how life functions. And Chiron is sort of like the bridge between our human experience and who we are on a soul level, our higher self, right? So it's helping us to understand. The wounded healer helps us to understand how to embrace our humanity and how to bring love and compassion towards some of these painful experiences from the past, so that we can really allow ourselves to be fully human. And what we need to understand is that, yes, even though as a human being we do experience pain and difficult situations at times, we also have the ability for the ability to heal through love on a tremendous level, because that's who we are on a soul level. On a soul level, we are love. And so that heals everything that we experience on a human level. And so it's very important to kind of like understand this human spirit alliance that we have. And Chiron is going direct the day after the new moon. So this is really making things easier for us to make peace with our past and to make choices that bring us more closer to our healing process in terms of tapping into forgiveness, tapping into compassion, tapping into understanding. And really understanding also that the choices that we made on a soul level have been helping us to evolve and helping us to gain a bigger understanding of who we are and experiencing something different about ourselves on a human level. And so this is really the past is the reason for why we are who we are right now. And so bringing that love energy into that is very important and is really vital, so that we can blossom in our human experience rather than shrink and become smaller in our human experience. Now, there are 3 dates that are coming up which have important insight and shifts connected to them, especially in connection to the Neptune and Chiron energy. November 23rd, November 26th, and December 5th. So pay attention on those days to what's going on for you, what's happening. Are you experiencing some shifts at that time in regards to healing, in regards to needing to have faith, needing to look through the illusion of separation with everything around you? And check to see if there are some insights that you're getting, so that you can make this shift more easily, so that you can make this 90-degree turn that we've been talking about, right? Now, the last thing I'm going to be talking about is the ruler of Sagittarius, which is Jupiter. Jupiter is very strongly featured in this new moon because it's making a lot of aspects to other planets in the chart. And one of the most important ones is a square to Saturn and Mercury in Scorpio. And so we're experiencing some very different energies here, because Jupiter in Leo wants us to explore and expand our experience around joy and fun and being self-expressed, being confident, being out there in the world and doing things that help us feel good about ourselves and help us be creative from a heartfelt place. Saturn and Mercury in Scorpio are really in asking us to focus on our inner experience, to go within and to look and see, where are some of these deeper issues that we're still struggling with, some of these things that are still holding us back, that keeping us small or keeping us on a lower vibrational level, holding us back, and to take responsibility for who we are deep down by embracing, old habits, old behaviors, fears that we have about life, about ourselves, about our energy, who we are, and really embracing all of who we are and communicating that also and sharing that with others, so that we can bring more consciousness to those places and bring more light to those places, so that way we can really kind of step more into an empowered place by really consciously understanding what's there, what's kind of keeping us maybe in a disempowered place. So it's important with these two energies. As you can see, they're very different. Jupiter in Leo, Saturn in Scorpio, very different energies. So we need to really stay flexible. We need to make adjustments as best as we can and find creative solutions where we can integrate both of these desires and focuses that we have with these two different energies. So I guess if I would want to sum it up, this new moon is definitely about, honoring old patterns and struggles from the past and making sure that we're not repeating them and embracing, our humanity and the inner child or the inner baby that has experienced these things. And really bringing a lot of compassion and understanding to ourselves and exploring our intuitive selves a little bit more, and widening our horizons. So all of this is part of this new moon energy. I'm gonna give you some final coaching questions for this new moon so that you can apply those to your intentions when you're setting your intentions. So the best way to use these questions is to maybe just sit with these questions for a little bit. You don't have to find an answer right away to these questions. What you want to do is either journal on the questions or meditate on them. Meditation is really great actually during the time of the new moon because it's a time where we want to go within. So meditation can be a great way to access that or do that. But you can also share these questions with people that you really truly trust, like a significant other or just some best friend or somebody else who you really feel like you can honestly and authentically communicate with, and just brainstorm or just kind of like talk about these questions with that trusted person, right? So one of these questions is like, why are we here? Like, what are we doing here? Where are we going? What are we doing in this human experience? Why did we choose what we chose to be here? But also, like, what beliefs do we have in place right now that maybe are not serving us so much anymore and maybe need reassessment? Are there some thoughts that we have made into beliefs, where we said, okay, this is an experience we've had several times, so that must be the truth, and therefore I'm going to believe that that's the truth. So really what beliefs are is thoughts that have been turned into the truth because of repeated experiences that we've had with something. So it doesn't necessarily make them into the truth, but it's kind of like our mind will make it into the truth because it thinks that there is a pattern. And when the mind thinks that there's a pattern, then it must be true. So basically, take a look at your beliefs and look to see, do some of these beliefs that you have maybe not serve you anymore. Maybe they've served you at a particular time in your life, but maybe no longer because now you're a different person than you were maybe 5, 10 years ago or 20 years ago, right? And then also, what do you believe? What do you believe and what do you simply know to be true? Like, what is your intuition telling you is the truth? And what's your mind telling you is the truth? Because sometimes that can be very different, right? What we believe with the mind to be true and what we know intuitively to be true, those can be two very different things. So take a look at that for yourself. And then the last question, which I think is a very powerful and very important question to ask yourself, is where do we need to take a leap of faith in our lives or simply trust? Is there anything in your life right now, anything at all, where you really feel like, I need to trust that it's going to be okay. I need to just have faith that I'm doing exactly what needs to be done so that I can move into the direction and get the results that I need to get. But just having that faith, having that trust, and trusting your intuition to guide you in that direction. Where is that in your life right now? So if you have personal planets and points in 0 to 2 degrees of Sagittarius, Gemini, Virgo, or Pisces, or if you have 28 and 29 degrees of Scorpio, Taurus, Leo, or Aquarius, somewhere in your birth chart, personal planets or points, then this new moon is definitely going to be affecting you much stronger than other people. However, even if you don't have personal planets and points in those degrees and signs, this new moon will be somewhere in your chart. And so you want to look at the house placement of where this new moon is taking place. And that will give you, that house placement will give you a lot of information about which area of your life is being most affected by this new moon energy, by this new moon cycle. And so I have a video that I recorded called How to Read Your Birth Chart. And if you want to take a look at that video, feel free to take a look at that either on YouTube, or you can email my assistant Anna at info@astrologercoach.com and put in the subject line recording of how to read your birth chart, and she will send you a high-res version of that, a link to that recording, and also the attachments of all the handouts that are connected to that recording. So that way you can really understand the class. And if you have any additional questions after the video, if you need more help, then feel free to reach out for a mini reading, and I'd be happy to support you more fully with your birth chart as well, okay? Now, let's talk about setting intentions. The moment we've been waiting for, when is the best time to set intentions? And this lunar cycle, the best time to set intentions is November 22nd after 7:32 a.m. East Coast time in the US, so after the new moon has become exact, and until 10:16 p.m. on November 23rd, so the next day, East Coast time, that's New York time. If you do live in a different time zone, feel free to plug in those New York times into a time zone converter, which you can find on the internet. If you Google that, you can find that. If you're still confused and you don't quite know how to do that, or you just simply don't want to do it, then feel free to just connect with me on Twitter or my Facebook fan page. I will be tweeting and announcing these potent times on November 22nd for everybody, so that if you follow me, you will know exactly when is a good time for you to set those intentions, okay? Now, the last thing I want to say is, if you do watch this video after November 23rd, and you still want to set intentions, even though it's not the most potent time anymore to set intentions, you can still do it. Just make sure that you do not set your intentions during a moon void of course phase. This is very important, because moon void of course, our intentions will not be as solid as they would be if we set them during a non-moon void of course phase. So feel free to go to my website and go to the astrologer forecasts page on my website at astrologercoach.com, and you will see my weekly forecasts there. And every weekly forecast that I write will talk about each of the moon void of course phases, when they start, when they end. So feel free to take a look at that, and just know that those are also written in New York time, in the New York time zone. So if you do live in a different time zone, you have to convert that. One last thank you I want to give to everyone who attended my Soul Journey course last weekend. I want to thank you guys so much one more time. It was such an amazing experience for me, connecting with everybody in the room, to have such wonderful, amazing women in the room with me, and to be teaching about the soul's journey and soul purpose. It was really a great experience. Thank you so much for joining me and being there. And if you do live near Holden, Massachusetts, or in Holden, Massachusetts, or which is an hour west of Boston, or you're just passing through the area, I really want to encourage you to check out Opening Lotus Yoga and to connect with Anne, who is the owner of that yoga studio, who is a fantastic human being, a wonderful teacher, a really experienced teacher in what she does. And she has a lot of stuff that she offers on her website. So even if you're not in the area, even if you don't live near there, you can connect with her at openinglotusyoga.com and check out what she offers in terms of her teachings. I highly recommend to connect with Anne if you can. She's really wonderful, and you will not regret it, I promise you. And last but not least, have a wonderful new moon. If you have any general questions about the new moon, always feel free to reach out to me at info@astrologercoach.com. If you do want to know something about your personal birth chart, then please, I will always encourage you and ask you to go to my website and book a reading with me, because that means I would have to pull up your birth chart, which takes up my time, and that means I would ask you to make a purchase of a reading at that point. There are lots of different services available. There are 25-minute readings. There are readings that are an hour and 15 minutes, an hour and a half. So there's a lot of different types of readings available for you. So whatever is the best fit for you, check it out on my website at astrologercoach.com/services.html. All right, and all the links to all the different places will also be underneath this video. So have a fantastic new moon, go within, plant new seeds, and have a fantastic next 28 days. And I'll be back in about 2 weeks with the next video. Okay, have a good one. This is Astrologer Coach Sonja Francis. Goodbye.